Hi, I'm Nate Ide. I'm the CEO of Ide Seed Fertilizer. It is October 4th, and we are east of Winsted, a few miles. We are in a D2 drought area of Minnesota. We're here to share this video with you and to help to show that just because we have adverse conditions in a growing year, that we don't always have to accept that, especially with mineralization with our situations that we have going. This area here got less than 5 inches of rain from planting until middle of August. Normally that would not be a good situation and we know what all of our inputs are doing for the next year and what they were for this year. Whether you were in western Minnesota or northern Minnesota last year, you experienced drought. Over here, a lot of people experienced drought. In regards to that, you can see that the ears that we have here a little bit would typically, when we've all seen 300 bushel corn. This is a national corn grower contest field that we did this on, and we'll be interviewing the Jopp Brothers. And in regards to the national corn grower contest field, that takes 10 acres of continuous one hybrid corn, and then you have to harvest that with verifications and go across for certified scales through independent people. That's why we're out here, okay? Are we gonna win state? I seriously doubt that. But what we are out here to do is try to lower family stresses, try to lower the stresses of growers, because we do not know, and we hear a lot about soil health, and for many, many years, 30 plus years, soil mineralization, we've had situations and the soil doesn't mineralize, doesn't get into the plants. We don't get the yield that we have. We have yellow corn. We have beans that are showing mineralization issues. You talk to your agronomist and, well, what can I do? Well, they always say, oh, we'll put more on. What that does is if you put more on, you have a greater percentage chance of getting it to mineral or get into the plant. So if you have more on, that's what we call the more on approach. Just put more on. With this, it's been a great frustration of mine through the years because I also farm 2,000 plus acres with my sons. What it does is I've talked with many agronomists, show me how to get the ground to mineralize, and I'll do whatever you want me to do. They always say, well, we can't get it to mineralize. It's an act of God. It takes the right temperatures, right soil conditions, moisture, et cetera, to get the ground to mineralize. We can do things for that, and when you can get the ground to mineralize and release the nutrients into the plant, that changes everything for everybody. I've watched a lot of high-yielding growers throughout the United States, currently working with a company out of South Dakota that they specialize in mineralization and soil health, and that's what they do. They work with growers out throughout the United States, high-yielding growers, and so I've been following that, and really, some of us, well, myself and or them, have got soils that are not very conducive to high yields, but they try products and try things to get them to mineralize, and they find that some of them work, some of them don't work. I'm out here today to show you, yes, I'm a representative for QLF, Quality Liquid Feeds, 45-year-old company that's been around, family owned, associated with the sugarcane molasses, and there is differences between sugar. White sugar, I followed it, and many people know this, that they've experimented with sugars for 30 plus years. Inconsistency. That's how I started with it, and I'll get into that a little bit as how I started to experiment with this and how we have many testimonials to this, that this is working for our growers. And I also am a representative for BW Fusion. I just decided to be a representative for them this summer, and they've been around for over 5 years down in Iowa, and they're expanding up here. And we'll talk about some of what's going on. In regards to this here, for what we started out doing here with this National Corn Grower Contest field, is we thought we're gonna put some sugarcane molasses on here. And the first thing that you're concerned about is when you hear about sugarcane molasses is Well, you don't plug up my planter and you don't plug up my sprayer. So that we can show you this. This is sugarcane. This is our product. Okay, this is very thin. You can see that. Okay, so it's a product that works very well. But been very satisfied with it. I've sold thousands of gallons. We're currently on over 30,000 acres here in central Minnesota. We'll be on well over 75,000 acres next year. In regards to this being a drought area, I want to point a couple of things out. The health of the plants here, and we'll talk with the jobs here how the growing season went. But the plants here, you can see this area has got severe anthracnose disease problems and or top-down, dry-down issues. When that happens, you're losing test weight, you're losing bushels, you're losing yield. We do not have any of that out here today. As you can see, 10 days ago, we had a frost out here, and you can see how green this corn was from top to bottom. We didn't have any anthracnose setting in, no top-down, dry-down setting in, and we have got nice ears of corn out here. To the point of this, you can see I can kick these stalks, and there is not an issue with them breaking. That one fell off, okay? But that's what's going on out here. We have got very good plant health out here, and that's part of it. If you don't have plant health, there's two ways that a corn plant should die. It should either die from a combine or from frost. Unfortunately, frost for this came right at black layer, so we're good in that regards. But that, when we started back to the National Corn Grower Contest, we started with, we're gonna put in a starter, and we put in a product called Kelp Pack. It is kelp. Product is through us, also at QLF. And there's a synergistic effect, and I've researched kelp through many growers and everything else. And they say that in drought conditions, that's when you see the benefits from a lot of these products. We're not out here to tell you you're gonna get 50, 75 bushels better than the neighbor or this and that. That's not what we're after. We're hoping for 2 to 5 bushels when we apply these products. So that's the cost that you all wanna know. Essentially, we're looking at $15 an extra cost per acre. We've got it built into us to watch our cost per acre. We can lower our cost per acre on other things and put that in there to help the ground mineralize. We also have soybeans. We're not in front of them today, but there's 2 slides on there to show soybean potash deficiency, and the other one side has got good mineralization of green soybeans, the other side does not. We took soil samples of them, and there's only a 30 part per million difference between the 2 parts of the field from 2 different farmers. That's not the farmer's fault. He just doesn't know that by using a natural product, you can get the ground to mineralize. And that's what we're after, is getting the ground to mineralize. We can do a lot of things once we accomplish with that. When the corn was so small, down at that knee-high area, V3, V4 stage, we had a lot of corn curling in this area. We did not have this cornfield curling. It was able to handle the stress because of the products that we put on from that, and with the synergistic effect between the two. And then what we did do is we came back, and there's a lot of stress, and we all know that the corn sets the girth around between that V4 to V8, V5, V8, right in there, depending on who you want to talk to. So what we did though is we kept putting product on, and to be honest with you, when we did our tissue samples, we did not see coming what we saw happen. We put on way too much nitrogen, which ties up other nutrients, but in light of that, we did end up with this, and the boys will tell us how much they got for a yield off of this. Anyway, in regards to that, it's just not about putting more sulfur on. It's about getting that ground to mineralize and releasing the nutrients along with that. So in regards to the QLF 721-3 with the sugarcane molasses, it's more than just sugarcane molasses. There's a lot of other things in there. The dark color comes from that. It feeds the microbes. When you do that, the soil, it gives the soil energy, gives the microbes energy. We're here to interview the Jopp Brothers here. They helped me participate with this National Corn Grower Contest field. Again, we're not out here to brag about our yield. but we are out here to show what we got when we applied the products to make the ground mineralized so that we could get the nutrients into the crop. And this is Grady Jopp, and this is Ryan Jopp. First thing we're gonna ask them is, everybody thinks that I'm pretty much crazy when I come to this idea of using the sugarcane molasses from QLF. Grady, what was your opinion when I first came to this, that hey, if we're gonna do this National Corn Contest plot, we gotta use this fertilizer?
Well, we definitely thought you were a little crazy, Nate. But, you know, we thought, what the heck, and try it out, and it seems to work pretty good, as you guys. Well, we definitely thought you were a little crazy, Nate, and, but, you know, we thought, what the heck, and try it out, and it seems to work pretty good, as you guys can see. I mean, it's full cobs, you know, all the way out. As dry as it was this year, you know.
Okay. Grady,
filled out really good and stuff like
now,
that,
Grady's a conservative one out of the bunch. Okay. Ryan here, he's more like, let's go get it and let's get to the highest yield we can. So what was your opinion out of this thing?
Well, yeah, for the most part, Nate, we always do think you're just slightly off, but for the sheer morbid curiosity, it's always fun to try something new on my end of it. It's the unknown factor, and we don't have a lot of corn acres and a lot of acreage, so to try to maximize as much as we can, as best as we can, it's just one of those things that thought we got to try it, something different that nobody else, well, it's relatively new to the industry. So yeah, no, we're happy with it. It turned out great for the driest year that I can ever remember since 1988. So yeah, everything worked out pretty well in the stages that we did it, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so we showed you the demonstration of the with fertilizer, how thin that is. In that regards, on the planter, that's our biggest concern. There's two things that we don't want to do with a farmer: is we don't want to screw up their planter, we don't want to screw up their sprayer. So we covered that a little bit. On your planter, everybody hates orifices. With technology nowadays, most people do not realize that we can get away from the orifices that we all hate. Okay, so we can get away from that with a couple of things, $50 a row usually, or we can get down as much as little as $10 a row by getting away from the orifice, so we don't have a problem with in that regards. And we also put on some different tubing on there in that regards. So it wasn't a big issue in that regards. So in regards to that, we had a John Deere 1760 planter. 2008. Spring loaded, not all the bells and whistles that you might see and everything else. This is what we had. This is what we had to work with. Is that what we had?
That's what we had.
Okay, nothing real fancy out here. Now, what we will talk about here is the growing season. Okay, Ryan, you want to explain what happened during the growing season?
Yeah, the year started out fairly average, pretty exciting. Busy wanting to get to it, so we got going. Relatively, a little later than normal, but relatively on time. We started out, we got it in, and we got this field planted, and then we had the 3.5 inches of rain in a half an hour downpour. And that was a bit nerve-wracking with all the hills and the way this land lays out. We had some gully wash and stuff like that, but we made it through that. The emergence seemed pretty decent, and then the D2 kicked in. We had, I don't know what, maybe 6 inches of rain total.
Well, let's back up here just a little bit here in that regards. When we talked about the gully washing and whatnot, prior to that, it was a very wet spring here in central Minnesota.
So we still have the ruts in the field from the sprayer track.
Yep, in that regard. So it was wet, and then we got it planted, and then we got that gully washer that came real fast. So let's just say 1 inch of that actually went into the ground, if that. Otherwise it ran off, because this is not flat black that we did this on. This is a gently rolling farm, typical here in central Minnesota. You know, there's a saying that, you know, life depends on earth of 6 inches of black soil, and it rains once in a while, and we got the 6 inches of black soil. We don't have 5 feet of black soil, we got 6 inches. And the good Lord wasn't giving us much for irrigation all summer long here either.
That's for sure.
So many times, and we have that verified through Climate View for the rain that we got on this farm. When the corn is about knee high, you know, a lot of the corn in the area was stressed out and tapped and rolling quite a bit. We didn't see the rolling going on out here, did we?
No, not this particular field.
Okay, because it had the energy, it had the mineralization from the plant
rolling quite a bit.
So it wasn't underneath the stress in that regard. So then we sprayed it, so we gave it a little bit more molasses again, along with the herbicides. We did put a fungicide on with this, and then it just kept growing. I wanted to come over and put on some boron and some calcium and give it another shot of molasses again right out after July 4th. And most of the corn in my corn was, chest high. Well, that's what I can get through my sprayer, but came over here and the corn was yay high. Well, we can't do that then, so we couldn't do that. So we had to wait, and we were going to do it with the airplane then later on. So when I was going to pollinate, that's when we had to come with the airplane, and we gave it some amino 15, which is slow release nitrogen, and then from BW Fusion we gave it some boron, calcium, and then a product called Full Sun, and that is supposed to help for test weight especially, and we'll talk about that here a little bit more later in that regards.
And that stuff all got applied to that half of the field.
Right.
None of this.
So actually, as we stand here in front of you, this didn't get any of the good BW Fusion. This is just pure QLF right here. This is what we got just doing that. And this didn't get extra nitrogen on either, because we kind of went with some of the old style thinking is, well, if you want to raise 300 bushel corn that we started out with this thing to do, you got to have 300 pounds of nitrogen. Clearly, you do not have to do that. At pollination, what was it?
It was hot. And 20 and 30 mile an hour winds. It was a brutal summer.
It was a brutal summer. So it was underneath high stress. So what does that tell you? What are we all worried about? We're worried about tip back, stress on the plant at that time. Okay, typically we should be looking at tip back of, and I heard a lot of stuff around in this area of an inch or 2 inches of tip back on these stuff. And you can see here, this corn did not tip back from the stress situations that are going on here.
And it was alive until the frost obviously killed it.
Yeah. What's your opinion of this now? Am I completely goofy, or is that, I got some validation behind this? Would you recommend using this to anybody else that's out there? Because what does it mean to you guys knowing that you don't have to worry so much about drought now?
Helped us out a lot.
Let's just call it $5 extra
I would
per
definitely
acre
say it's worth
for
it.
putting on the
pretty
molasses,
reasonable price
the boost,
and everything like that too,
or the 721-3
Helped us out a lot.
over whatever other product you might want to use. The Kel Pack, we put that on a full quart to the acre. That was $10 an acre. Okay, so let's just say we got out here an extra 30 bushel to the acre times that. Okay, we literally paid for the next 30 years. If this never works again, we never have another situation in farming with bad growing conditions. Never works again. It paid for 30 years in one year, right here, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and maybe we'll never have a dry year like this again. Maybe next year will be worse if we don't get any rain here soon. But if you want to push the limit, yeah, maybe we'll never have it. It works.
The QLF and the BW worked very well out here.
And just try a third of your acreage if you're questioning. I mean,
QLF.
Now, just to specify so that everybody understands this, on this that we're standing right in front of right now, this we did not put on 300 pounds of nitrogen. This just got 150 pounds of total nitrogen, like everybody else puts on in that regard. So that's what we got here. And this did not get the BW Fusion or the Amino 15 from QLF. Grady, when we were setting the combine. Now this is a rarity that we did not see happen very often, but it stands out in regards to both hybrids are from the same company. This is a 105-day that we had in the contest. Right next to it across the grass waterway is a 98-day from the same company, okay? Now, when we were trying to set the combine, we thought we'd try and set it on drier corn. We found out that it was actually 2 points wetter, wasn't it, Grady?
105-day corn was.
The 105-day corn was 2 points drier.
Yeah, okay, so it was 2 points drier for the
105-day corn was wetter.
Okay, now the 98-day, that did not get the Kel Pack in that regards. It got the 721-3 from QLF, and then it got sprayed when we applied our herbicide, and it didn't get all the other goodies along with it. So the point of it is there to make is that, yes, it definitely helped for yield, and it's going to do 200 plus bushel corn, but it did not handle the stress as well because it did not get the extra amino 15 and or the other products to handle the drought stress that we were dealing with in that regards. So that's what we're trying to make in that regards. So as far as paying for the product, it's not a problem paying for the product in that regards.
I would say we easily got 220 over there bushels, you know, guessing.
Yeah, that's what their yield monitor was showing.
No.
You know, so now, okay, we have not talked about what we got for a yield yet here, guys.
No.
Okay, so when we started this project, we wanted 300. In light of getting less than 5 inches of rain from the time of planting all the way over to middle of August, okay, what did we get for a yield that went across the scales? Who wants to say that one?
265.311.
Yes. So that's what we end up with. Is it bragging rights? No, but we think it's pretty darn good for the year.
For 5.5, 6 inches of rain.
And less than 5 inches of rain. For
No,
sure,
but we
6,
think
no
it's
matter
pretty
what.
darn good for the
And
year.
it helps
For the
lower the
year,
stress levels.
and
And we got
also-
inputs this coming year of over $1,000 to the acre for all this. So if your soil's not mineralizing, we got a problem. And that's why we're here to help everybody realize that yes, you can do this. And on the website, we have other testimonials on there from people across the country that have also done this. And that's where we got that from on the website too.
And it's fun watching it grow.
Yes. Okay, thank you guys. Greatly appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you. We wanted to highlight this here for everybody here in regards to, if you notice that these cobs, especially in a drought area, you don't see this. Because we kept the plant healthier all the way through. We're square. We don't get narrower as we come here. It stays pretty square the whole way. So it gave us kernel depth. So the end of it there is we got some real good kernel depth going on here, right at the very tip. And that's usually where you see your dry down and drought stress is coming on here. But you can see that these cobs are square all the way. So they're square from the front to the back. That's where they're square. We're gonna do this little trick. So I don't know how this is exactly gonna work. But we're just gonna hit this one right here. We're gonna hit her. And so when we're in a drought area, you get a lot of stock rock going on. You saw me kick the stalks along the way. And we're gonna open this up and we're gonna show you. There's still moisture in here. This is white. See how white this is? That's a healthy corn stalk right there. Okay? Not brown, suffering from diseases and everything else. Right now, we don't have to worry about the wind and everything else that everybody else is experiencing right now out here with these, being we got these products going. It's a nice, healthy plant. Also with the soybeans, the QLF Boost, we are on the Corteva's list for drift control, approved drift control products. You're supposed to be using some kind of a drift control product when you're spraying the enlist, and we are on that. And we're seeing a real consistent 2 to 5 bushel increase from putting that on there, because it acts as an antioxidant to the plant. So the beans keep growing instead of having a stall out period in there. So that's what we got going with that. So in summary here, after we interviewed the Jopp Brothers and what we saw here, just to enlighten you a little bit extra on myself, I grew up in the hog industry. I actually worked for the National Pork Producers in research. And believe it or not, bacon at one time was not a popular thing. Wasn't until 1994 until bacon was on a fast food burger in the United States, fast food chain. The joke in our meetings was that we were going to make bacon so popular it'd be like a condiment to the restaurants where they could spend 25 cents and buy 2 pieces of bacon and charge $1.50 or $2 for the burger. Lo and behold, we kind of missed the boat in that regards, and we greatly underestimated the popularity of what bacon had become. And I really believe that what bacon does for the food industry, these products will do for you to help lower your stress and give you extra yield. And the proof of it is right here. Like I said, we were in a drought area. When you can do this in a drought area, it lowers your family stress considerably. And we are having a meeting in January. We are bringing in Jason Schley. He's from South Dakota also, regarded as one of the nation's top agronomists that is out there, works with people from across the United States. We will also be having Christina Rendell from Agronomy 365 coming. She's a microbiologist, and she'll be explaining mineralization and weons and weox and how to get the plant to uptake and how microbes work and all that stuff. and it will not be boring. Trust me, she will keep you entertained and informed of what's going on. You'll hear this like you've never heard it before. For more information, go to ideseed.com.